Welcome back to Ballaholics, the show for those who simply can't get enough of basketball. We're back. The squad is back. I'm your host, Sam Israel. We got Ian Mills in the house. Ian, how are you doing on this fine summer day?
I'm just doing just dandy. I can't wait for the NBA season to get back. MLB starts this week. A few exhibition games. Been watching those a little bit. Just getting antsy for real sports to come back.
I know, man. I couldn't agree more. And, the MLB is coming back. New York, I finally have my New York Yankees team coming back, my functional New York team.
You know what? You know what's crazy? Blue Jays going to play in Buffalo maybe this year. So maybe
Really?
I got to Blue Jays. Yeah. Go Vlad. All right.
There you go. You got the Buffalo Blue Jays.
Maybe.
Hopefully they don't leave again like the Buffalo Kings.
No, it was Rochester Royals.
The Rochester Kings.
Buffalo Braves existed. Now they're the Clippers.
Oh, man. I'm sure you can't wait to get your Sacramento Kings back in the NBA. Anyway, guys, glad that you guys are joining us for this episode. So we got a lot in store for today. The NBA season coming back next week. We're going to start off right now without further ado. And, Ian, let's talk about the Eastern Conference. We're looking at the Eastern Conference. Obviously, I believe the both of us have the Milwaukee Bucks penciled in as the number one seed.
Yes.
Ian, in your opinion, who is the team that you believe poses the biggest threat to the Milwaukee Bucks?
Well, I think it comes down to probably about four teams, right, that are actually real contenders outside of the Bucks, and be the Celtics, Sixers, Raptors, and Heat, right? We can probably both agree on that. Pacers, as good as we think they are, they're probably not going to do much. Magic, obviously. Nets, probably not. So for me, if I look at those teams, Raptors, Pascal Siakam's good. He's really good. But is he a superstar? No, he's not a superstar, and he's not going to probably be able to stop that team. There's not enough star power, I think, to take over Giannis. For me, looking back at the end of the quarantine shortened regular season, obviously we're going to continue, but the regular season, I would say, Jayson Tatum was getting to be a superstar. He was playing as if he was a superstar. And if he had done that the entire season, I think he would probably be in the MVP conversation. Although he only really did it for the last month of the season. So for me, looking at that Celtics roster, Gordon Hayward's going to be able to rest up. Kemba Walker is zoned in. Probably one of the only times he's going to have a realistic shot of winning a playoff series. Obviously with the Hornets, they made the playoffs a couple times. The 7th and 8th seeds didn't do much. So I think that team is hungry. I think, out of all the teams there, obviously you can look at the Sixers, Embiid and Simmons have had limited playoff success. Jimmy Butler is probably the most competitive guy in the league. If he's up there at least with the Heat. I just think as an all-around roster, including coach, Brad Stevens, I think, has been doing an incredible job with the Celtics. I think it really comes down to, if you look at those 5 teams rosters, including the Bucks, who compares the best with the Bucks? I would say the Celtics do. And I'd say, you need a star on each team. I'm talking about all around roster, but if you look at the star of the team out of all those players, Jimmy Butler, Embiid, Pascal, I would take Jayson Tatum over all of them. So I would say Jayson Tatum, the Celtics probably have the best bet of beating the Bucks. That being said, I think the Bucks will regardless. I think that the Bucks will be the winner of the East.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I think that all these teams are legit contenders to the Bucks. I don't know if it's a foregone conclusion necessarily. I think ultimately the Bucks are going to go out of the East. Now, Ian, listen, because I know you said the Celtics are the biggest threat to the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yes.
The Boston Celtics, in my book, they're the second best team in the Eastern Conference.
Right.
But there's a huge difference between being the second best team versus posing the biggest threat to the Milwaukee Bucks. Because you have to take matchups into consideration. One team's strengths playing to another team's weaknesses, that's the team I'm looking for. I'm looking for the one team that, regardless of whether they're the second best team, third best team, fourth best team, their strengths align with the Bucks' biggest weaknesses. And for that, I would say it's going to be the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, it's shocking because obviously the Philadelphia 76ers, in my opinion, aren't even a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. You have the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, and of course you have the Miami Heat right now, leading with Jimmy Butler at the helm of that. But the Philadelphia 76ers pose the biggest threat to the Milwaukee Bucks. One of the big ways to go after Milwaukee is Milwaukee's offense, let's not forget, it predicates on Giannis Antetokounmpo attacking the paint. and getting to the rim. So you need to have players and you need to have the right personnel to be able to stop him from attacking the rim inside. And I look at the Philadelphia 76ers. I see Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Al Horford, 3 players right there that can stop and lock Giannis Antetokounmpo and prevent him from infiltrating and going into that rim. Because he races at the rim, he's going like 1,000 miles per hour. You can't stop Giannis, and that's how you stop him. That's what the Toronto Raptors did when they were stopping Giannis Antetokounmpo in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And that's the recipe for success against the Milwaukee Bucks. Once you stop Giannis Antetokounmpo from attacking the paint, then the entire offense falls apart, because the entire offense in Milwaukee, it's all built around Giannis Antetokounmpo. Chris Middleton knocking down threes. Eric Bledsoe occasionally can be that second go-to scorer, when he has to be. Brook Lopez shooting threes. They space out the floor for him. But the Philadelphia 76ers, even if you look at these rankings that I was able to look up, so these rankings I'm about to show to you guys. They talk about the players that have the best interior defense rating 6 feet before to the rim. Joel Embiid ranks number 5 in the NBA. Al Horford, 26th overall in interior defense. Ben Adebayo, okay, the Miami Heat, they won all their games against the against the Milwaukee Bucks. He's only 41st overall, so in interior defense. So maybe those games against Giannis Antetokounmpo could have been a fluke. But I do believe that the Miami Heat also, they do warrant, special consideration. I think the Miami Heat would be a team also that can ultimately challenge the Milwaukee Bucks. Another thing, besides locking down Giannis Antetokounmpo and not letting him drive to the rim, another thing that you need to have, my second criterion, is that you need to be able to take out the Bucks interior defender Brook Lopez and bring him away from the rim and bring him to the three-point line when you're on offense against the Bucks. The Philadelphia 76ers can do that once again. They check that box. If you look at the Boston Celtics, Ian, which big men can shoot threes and space out the floor like Joel Embiid and Al Horford? Joel Embiid shoots 35% from three-point line. Al Horford, 36%. They're going to take Brook Lopez, who's one of the greatest interior defenders this season. They can take him out of the paint, and that can open up the lane for Ben Simmons, who thrives making layups inside. Overall, I just think this team, the Philadelphia 76ers, I don't really think they have a chance, but if they played the Milwaukee Bucks, this is a series.
I would say Enes Kanter has a shot of being able to make a couple threes, but whatever. No, you're right. Brook Lopez, getting him out there is probably a great idea, especially with Al Horford, who Al Horford has been shaky this year from 3. But that being said, so the Sixers are going to have to play the Bucks. The Sixers right now are tied for the 5th seed, right? And I assume they'll probably overtake the Pacers. I could be wrong with that, but I would assume they'll probably end up as the 5th or the 4th seed.
I agree.
So they would have to play the Heat, probably round 1. If not the Heat, they'd have to play the Celtics. And regardless of that, they would have to play the Bucks in the second round. And for me, it just doesn't seem like – it seems so far out of the realm of possibility that the Bucks would get knocked out in the second round. Obviously, that's just kind of a nitpick, and it's kind of like whatever. But, I agree. The interior defense obviously does matter quite a bit. But Chris Middleton was the best three-point shooter in the league this year. And, Josh Richardson, he's an all right defender or whatever. But he's, I would say that if you take away the inside scoring, and obviously, what are you making a face? You're making a face. What are you making a face for?
Oh, no, nothing. I'm just making a face because you're questioning the Philadelphia 76ers defense compared to the Boston Celtics defense. Sorry, Josh Richardson, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and Al Horford's not enough for you?
I'm talking about perimeter defense.
Okay, Josh Richardson and Ben Simmons. Simmons can go out too.
I know. My point is I don't think any team necessarily has. I think really the Sixers more than anything are, they're top heavy. They're a very top heavy team, and I don't know that they can really outscore Giannis and Chris Middleton, but
Yeah, I sort of do see your point there. Like your last point saying that they can't outscore Milwaukee. Again, I don't think when I'm choosing the Philadelphia 76ers, I'm not placing the emphasis on the Philadelphia 76ers having to score more buckets than the Bucks. What I'm saying is if you lock down Giannis, you take Giannis Antetokounmpo out of the game, you can stunt their confidence. I don't know if Chris Middleton can be the number 1 option on that team if Giannis Antetokounmpo's having a bad day, if he can't drive to the rim, then how is Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez even going to space the floor for him? So I look at that. It's not about necessarily getting outscored by the Bucks. It's locking them down and making it a defensive, gritty battle.
I would say, with any of those teams that we listed, the Raptors, Celtics, Heat, or Sixers, I think it's a very interesting, I think it'll be interesting to see. I don't think the Bucks will sweep anyone. I think they'll win, but I think they'll all be relatively tough. I don't think they'll blow anyone out. You know what I mean? I don't think they'll sweep anyone, but I do think they'll win regardless. You know what I mean? But yeah, you're right. So. I think the key is either just having someone who can go head to head with Giannis and outscore him, and I think Jayson Tatum is that guy. Or you can try to stop Giannis, which would be it's not an easy thing to do. We can probably both agree with it. It's not an easy thing to stop Giannis Antetokounmpo, even for a team with extremely good interior defense.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really difficult to outscore them. That's why if I was thinking about like that, maybe the Celtics do have a chance. I just don't think with Mike Budenholzer's offense, I don't think you can outscore him. I know it's Mike D'Antoni and the Houston Rockets. I feel like they're a kind of team that likes to outscore the opponent, and we saw it in previous years against Golden State. I think if you're trying to beat this Milwaukee Bucks team, you need to lock them down. I would say also to your point, I think that not necessarily the Boston Celtics, but if I had to choose a team other than the Philadelphia 76ers, I would go with the Miami Heat, because I think the Miami Heat, if you look at that team, their offense, obviously Brook Lopez is one of the elite interior defenders in the league. Actually, on that ranking I mentioned earlier, Brook Lopez actually ranked 8th overall. So I think that Miami Heat, you can't drive inside on offense against the Milwaukee Bucks. So Miami Heat, they have a huge, they rely on the perimeter to get their buckets. And you look at, for example, Duncan Robinson. You look at, I'm blanking on the other name, Kendrick Nunn. Okay. So they have so many shooters, and Kelly Olynyk, also a big man that can potentially bring and lure Brook Lopez out of the paint. And Ben Adebayo, I don't think that Ben Adebayo can lock down Giannis. I know he did it in the regular season a couple games. I don't think he can do that in the playoffs. I think that Giannis is going to be too much. That's why I didn't pick the Miami Heat. I went with the Philadelphia 76ers, but we'll see what happens. I think that they're all good picks. I can't get mad at you even for the Boston Celtics. That's also an amazing pick.
I also think we have to mention that the Raptors are the second team in the East right now by, wins. We could just be sleeping on them. For real, we could just be they don't have a star. They're not going to be good. But,
Pascal Siakam could be that star. You really could be. I want to see it. I'm not going to believe it until I see it, I got to see that in order to believe it with them.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think they're all fairly well-coached teams, maybe outside the Sixers. Not a huge believer in Brett Brown, but yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to watch. Although I think we can probably both agree that we are taking the Bucks to win the East.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Milwaukee Bucks are the presumptuous favorite to win the East and ultimately come out in the Eastern Conference and challenge either LeBron James or Kawhi Leonard. I believe it's going to be one of those teams. I'm sure you do too. But let's actually go on to our next segment. Let's flip the page and talk about the second best player in the Eastern Conference, Ian. So obviously, again, if Giannis Antetokounmpo didn't exist on the face of this planet at all, Ian, who is your best player in the Eastern Conference? Who's the top player in the East without Giannis Antetokounmpo?
I would say the best player in the East without Giannis. I mean, they're probably all the candidates are probably on these teams: the Heat, the Sixers, and the Celtics. And you can pick, Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons or Jayson Tatum or Jimmy Butler. But for me, just kind of looking at the takeover mode, especially of if you were to go for who I think out of those players is the best, and I would take Jayson Tatum. I would absolutely take Jayson Tatum strictly because I think Jimmy Butler potentially had a better overall season because he did it from start to finish. But to discount what Jayson Tatum did that last month of the season, it was MVP worthy 100% of the time. If he had done it for a season long, he would be in the candidacy. I think it is. We looked at this right before we started filming, but if you look at the MVP odds, the top 10 players, it's Giannis at 1 and then 9 Western Conference players. So the East, is a big drop off between Giannis and Jayson Tatum and Jimmy Butler or Ben Simmons, whoever you whoever you feel is the next best player. But for me, I think Jayson Tatum has a long way to go, especially with distributing the ball relative to.
We got a visitor. I know we're doing a live show today.
Yeah. So yeah. I think obviously it's a huge drop off, and I think Jayson Tatum has a lot to gain from a distributor perspective. I think Jimmy Butler averages I think 6 assists, whereas Jayson Tatum only averages 3. But for me, the scoring from Jayson Tatum, he has a Kemba Walker, so him distributing the ball isn't nearly as important. So, I think at the end of the day, Jayson Tatum fits his team well enough where he can just score and rebound, and that's what he does incredibly well.
Yeah, I don't mind the Jayson Tatum pick. For me, I would have to see him in the playoffs lead the Celtics over several teams before I would actually mark him down as the second best player in the Eastern Conference. Yeah. I'm looking at the Eastern Conference, honestly, right now without Giannis Antetokounmpo, besides Giannis Antetokounmpo, I feel like the Eastern Conference really lacks superstar power. They have all stars. There are stars in the East, no doubt. Lots of amazing teams and formidable teams in the Eastern Conference, but not necessarily that many superstars. Now, obviously, in a full healthy world, Kevin Durant would be my second best player in the Eastern Conference right now. But obviously, Kevin Durant is not healthy. He is not playing for Brooklyn. So right now, I have to go with, in a conference that truly lacks many superstars, I have to go with Jimmy Butler in the Miami Heat. First off, I want to say that if you guys don't know Jimmy Butler's story and just how he made it into the NBA and now is playing at this kind of level, you guys have to look that up and do some research on that, because Jimmy Butler has a remarkable story. Jimmy Butler never knew his father and was actually kicked out of the house when he was 13 years old by his mother, and he was a homeless teenager, and he'd go house to house all the time, and then he had a dream playing in the NBA. And just he has that mental toughness. He's battle-tested. If you look through even the past NBA games, the past NBA regular seasons, let me give you guys some stats right here, okay? 2015 playoffs, he let them to beat the Bucks. 2017 playoffs, they were up 2-0 against the first-seeded Celtics. The Celtics at the time, they had Jaylen Brown. It was Jayson Tatum's rookie season, I believe, and they were the number 1 seed. And then Jimmy Butler almost led the 8th-seeded Bulls over that team. They were 41-41 that season. When Butler left the Chicago Bulls after that 41 game season, they won 27 games the following year. That was a reduction of 14 wins.
Keep in mind that year, the 41 season where they almost took over the Celtics, playoff Rondo was absolutely year, and he was insane. He almost and then when he got injured, I think they just lost the rest of the game. But yeah, no, you're right, Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. So yeah, that season, I believe, the 2017 season, the Bulls, when Jimmy Butler left to go to the T-Wolves, they went from being 41-41 to going down and only winning 27 games the following year. That's a 14-win dip. The next season, look how Jimmy Butler, just affects a team. The next season, he goes to the Minnesota Timberwolves. The season before Butler arrived, they were 31-51. Butler goes into Timberwolves, and they win 47 games, leads the Timberwolves to their first playoff season in I don't even know how many years, Ian. I'm not even going to get to that. That's a 16-game increase in wins. So far, Jimmy Butler has affected teams 30 wins. He has 30 wins so far, increase. 2019 playoffs. The Miami Heat, before they acquired Jimmy Butler, were 39-43. Butler goes in. They already have that many wins. They have 41 wins right now, and they didn't get to finish the season yet. So the way Butler affects the teams that he goes to, and just the mental toughness that he brings, the bona fide scorer that he is, the all-star that he is one of a kind. And you saw that playoff series last year against the Toronto Raptors. They were only 1 game away from overthrowing that Toronto Raptors team, and that was 100% thanks to Jimmy Butler. If Jimmy Butler is not on that Philadelphia 76ers team, they do not get that far. Butler now on the Miami Heat, he is the all-star. I don't know if he's necessarily the number 1 scorer, if he could be the number 1 player on a championship contender team, but in this Eastern Conference that truly lacks many superstars, it is clearly possible that he can be that player.
Hey, you remember in 2000, 2018, I want to say. Yeah. LeBron's final year in Cleveland when Jayson Tatum with a Kyrie Irving-less Celtics went to the Eastern Conference Finals and went to 7 games with the LeBron-led Cavs. He was certainly the best player on the Celtics and probably the second best player in the series behind LeBron. I mean, and this was, his second year? Or was he might have been a rookie.
First year, that was his rookie year, I believe.
That was his rookie year. And for him, and obviously he dropped off a little bit after the next year, but he's risen right back up to that stardom. So for us to be talking about, what they did in the playoffs, Jayson Tatum as a rookie went head-to-head with LeBron and went to Game 7.
That's true. That's true. That's very true. That's very true. Jayson Tatum had an unbelievable game that game. I remember watching that, and I was rooting for the Cavs at the time because I wanted LeBron to go to the finals one last time, against the Golden State Warriors when he was on Cleveland. But Tatum went off that game. He was just terrorizing the entire team. If LeBron wasn't on the Cavs in that game, they would have went to the finals. So I definitely believe that Tatum, could be the second best player in the NBA at some point. I want to backpedal real quick to when you talk about Kyrie Irving and just say this. Without Kyrie Irving, don't even include Kyrie Irving in the Eastern Conference. Jimmy Butler, probably the clutchest player in the Eastern Conference right now. If there's 5 seconds left on the shot clock, I want Jimmy Buckets taking that last shot. Jimmy Buckets is the player that needs to be taking that last shot. And I think that also factors in to being the second best player. How clutch are you? Would you rather have Jayson Tatum, or Jimmy Butler as your go-to guy? 5 seconds left on the shot clock, the universe on the line. Who do you take, Ian? I have to take Jimmy Buckets.
I would take KD over both of them. But if I had to pick the two, I'd probably pick Jayson Tatum. And that's just, again, that's like a subjective thing,
Yeah, I agree with that, yeah.
But you're right, yeah. I mean, that you have to, if they're going to choke, the veteran would probably choke less than the 22-year-old guy. But I think Jayson Tatum has matured quite a bit. He's a very mature 22-year-old is what I'm trying to say. So, clutch just matters. But, again, it's somewhat of a subjective stat almost.
Yeah, I do agree. I think clutch could be viewed as being subjective. I still can't believe that Max Kellerman was trying to argue that Kawhi Leonard was more clutch than Kobe Bryant. That was just ridiculous. We brought up clutch, and I was thinking about that. Just utterly ridiculous. But let's just go on. Let's go on to our next final segment of the day, leaving the second best player in the Eastern Conference. And this is the battle of the big men, Ian.
Yes.
Nikola Jokic or Joel Embiid. You got Nikola Jokic here in the Denver Nuggets, the Western Conference. Joel Embiid, Philadelphia 76ers. Ian Mills, you choose one of these centers. Who is the better center?
I think this is one of those arguments, kind of like a Michael Jordan versus LeBron James argument, where it's like you kind of want to just say, let's just appreciate greatness. Let's just appreciate greatness. I don't want to compare the two. But obviously, for the sake of the argument, obviously we have to compare the two. But that being said, I think obviously they play two very, very, very different games. With Joel Embiid, not much of a passer, not a great three-point shooter, although he still does shoot them. He has Ben Simmons to kind of facilitate the entire floor, right? Whereas Nikola Jokic, he has Jamal Murray, Gary Harris as the guards. He's the facilitator of the team. He is by far, bar none, by far, the best passing big in the league, and it's not close. And that is one of those stats or one of those, attributes that if a center has it, it can change your entire dynamic of the team. I mean, Jamal Murray and Gary Harris, Jamal Murray would probably know, because he went to Kentucky, but we might not know who Gary Harris is anymore without, Nikola Jokic. Jamal Murray might not be a borderline all-star without Nikola Jokic. And the Nuggets are a great team, and they have a very good roster. And him and Paul Millsap, I think they gel pretty well together. I think, getting a guy who might be a bit better of a rebounder would probably help them out. But, Nikola Jokic, I think what we're going through now kind of in the NBA is trying to move to small ball, guys who can shoot, guys who can pass, guys who are fast. Nikola Jokic is not fast. He's not, a great shooter by any means. But him being able to pass the ball better than a lot of point guards, I think is something that is Joel Embiid, as great as he is, and I think he's an extremely dynamic player. He's very good at what he does. Nikola Jokic is the best at he's one of the best passers, and he's the best passing center in the league by far. So I'd have to pick Jokic, if that wasn't obvious.
So Ian Mills chose Nikola Jokic. So I think you guys all know who I'm going to choose now. No, I'm going to agree with Ian on this one. It's Nikola Jokic in my book. It's definitely Nikola Jokic. Ian Mills, congratulations. We agree on something. Here we go.
Thank you.
Nikola Jokic, his game is just he's an anomaly. We've never seen what Nikola Jokic does because traditionally centers are big men. They're defensive anchors for teams. They dominate inside. You look at Shaquille O'Neal. You look at Joel. You look like a. Sorry, let's start over again. You look at like a Shaquille O'Neal. You look at like a Hakeem Olajuwon. Now Joel Embiid sort of reminds me closer of that kind of player where you're a defensive anchor for a team and you dominate inside. Nikola Jokic is an anomaly. We've never seen any player like Nikola Jokic ever. Nikola Jokic is most undoubtedly probably the best big man passer I've ever seen. I think the best in history, I can really say, Ian. I mean, he throws dimes like he's Magic Johnson. He has more assists this season than CP3. His outlet passes, he throws them like he's Tom Brady in the NFL. Nikola Jokic gets the most out of his teammates. He elevates their play, their level of play, whereas centers don't traditionally do that. You see someone like a Clint Capella, a Rudy Gobert, a Joel Embiid, who don't really, not necessarily facilitators, but they stay inside, they dominate inside, and are defensive anchors. But Nikola Jokic does not do that. And actually, if you look at the records, for example, Nikola Jokic last season, Denver Nuggets were the third seed in the West. They were the second team in the Western Conference at 54-28. They won 54 games and Nikola Jokic as their first option. Joel Embiid, on the other hand, 51-31. So, okay, Sam, you're like, that's pretty close. But the Philadelphia 76ers last season had Ben Simmons and Jimmy Butler on that team. The Denver Nuggets, it's Nikola Jokic. Jamal Murray and Gary Harris are good players. They're solid contributors. But let's not get it twisted. Nikola Jokic is that number one option on the Denver Nuggets. And even if you look this season, third seed in the Denver Nuggets, 44-20 before, obviously, the NBA hiatus. Joel Embiid underachieved. They were the sixth seed, 39-26. The standings suggest Nikola Jokic is the better player. The playmaking abilities of Nikola Jokic suggest that he's a better player in the stat book. And when you watch him, and you look at the stats once again, Ian, Nikola Jokic averages 7 assists this season. That is unprecedented for a center to average. Those are insane numbers. When it comes down to it, I think that Joel Embiid has more intangibles, but Nikola Jokic he's a clown. He's a joker. Nikola Jokic is the better center.
So just to go back a little bit, I think we shouldn't discount the defensive impact that Joel Embiid has and the kind of lack thereof that Nikola Jokic has. So I don't think it's like – I think it's relatively close. I don't think it's like a huge gap between the two. I don't think Joel Embiid is just like an average – like he's a super – like he's insane. He's insanely good, but so is Jokic. So actually I just was looking at just got a Twitter notification. Got some good news for us NBA fans out there. Since July 13th, so about a week ago today, there have been 0 new cases of corona for NBA players. The bubble seems to be doing all right. Looks like we should get a real season going on. I'm pretty excited about that. So everything looks to be going up. Safety, as soon as everyone's being safe.
Ian, that's great news now, but I'm always a little nervous. You never know. Maybe Ivan Zubac on the Los Angeles Clippers. What's stopping Doc Rivers from being like, sending Ivan Zubac outside the NBA bubble, let him get COVID, and then let him touch LeBron James, and then when that series happens, we don't get to see LeBron James. I'm not ruling that out yet because that can happen. What's stopping that from happening?
How cool! First, because they have to quarantine, and they would test him. But
Ivan Zubac is scaring me. I don't know. Boban Marjanovic is even a little more suspect.
Who is he on again? What team is he on again? Mavs? He's on the
Mavs. Boban. I can see Boban doing it. He's like, he's a tall guy. He's a little fool. He's a fool. I can see him doing it.
Well, LeBron's going to see him coming from a mile away, probably.
That's true. He's a big guy.
Maybe
they should get Isaiah Thomas to do it.
Yeah, someone needs to sign Isaiah Thomas. Something I wanted to add real quick. What was I going to say? Oh, how cool does the NBA bubble look?
Oh, it's sick, man.
It
They're
looks
building a barbershop. They're building an NBA
yeah.
barbershop
They bought
inside.
2K. Yeah, they made 2K neighborhood.
That's awesome, man. I mean, honestly, they should like have a limited amount of seats for like fans like us. I mean, I would love to see the games. You know, why
I
is
would
they play in front of like these machines? They play it. How does it work, Ian? The NBA, do you actually go into the NBA arenas? All the seats are full of just like people in pieces of paper. It's virtual fans. I hate it. It's disgusting.
You know what? You know what? You know how last week we were talking about becoming Bleacher Report writers?
Yes.
We should do that just to get into the bubble and be like journalists in the bubble. Think about it. We can get in the bubble just as journalists.
Wow. That's
Chess,
an
not
idea.
checkers. Chess, not checkers, my friend.
We're playing chess, not checkers, as LeVar Ball once said. The one and all famous LeVar Ball. And you know what? I think we're talking about LeVar Ball, Ian. I think we've reached a new low point bringing up LeVar Ball, and it was really my fault because I brought up LeVar Ball. I shouldn't have done that.
Oh yeah, chess, not checkers, whatever. Yeah, you know what? It's been fun. Check us out on Instagram,
Hey.
Spotify, whatever you guys can do. Twitter now. We have a Twitter account now.
Yeah, we got a Twitter account. I gotta start getting the activity going. I gotta start retweeting, making some controversial comments. Nah. All right, guys. Yeah, definitely follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram, Ballaholics_BTV6. Maybe later on in the week, I believe the MLB starts Thursday night. Maybe we'll be able to squeeze in a little live episode, do a Ballaholics live episode later on this week, right before the MLB season. We can discuss some MLB picks for us, our predictions, and stuff like that.
Before we end, I want to make a bet with you. Whoever ends with a better record, the Yankees or the Blue Jays. So the Blue Jays end with a better record. Let's say you owe me. You'll buy me dinner when we get back to school. And if the Yankees end with a better record, I'll owe you dinner. How about that?
I like that, Ian.
All right, I like
that. We could also we'll think of other things we could bet too. I feel like I have a really good idea for that.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and check us out. Live episode possibly next week, and then we'll catch you guys later. Have a good one. Peace.